Hello everyone, I'm Suresh Kothari. Welcome to the third segment of my lectures on algebra for software behaviors. In this segment, we'll talk about the algebraic method. A compact representation of all execution behaviors is enabled by a non-commutative ring structure. We talked about the ring structure. It was introduced by Dedekind about 100 years ago. The compact representation is derived by solving a system of linear equations based on the ring structure. The solution is an algebraic expression that corresponds to execution behaviors by mapping addition to union of behaviors, multiplication to succession of behaviors, and division to iteration of behaviors. Let's start with a review of the algebraic structure ring. Recall that Dedekind introduced ring to mimic integers. So the ring has two operations, addition and multiplication, and it has some familiar properties of these operations. For example, the addition is associative, the multiplication is distributive over addition. For software, we are going to use a ring which is not commutative, which means AB is not always equal to BA. A ring is not required to have a multiplicative identity, but our ring will have a multiplicative identity, and some of the elements will have multiplicative inverse. In fact, there is a famous ring, the ring of matrices, which is non-commutative, and it also has a multiplicative identity, and some matrices have inverses. Now, a ring is defined over a set of elements. For us to define a ring that's going to be useful for software, we need a set of elements that capture the semantics for executing sequences of program statements. So we are going to use a binary relation defined on this set of program statements. A binary relation is a very fundamental notion in mathematics. It is used to capture semantics. We define a binary relation called the successor relation. This successor relation captures the semantics of execution sequences. We say that a pair of program statements PQ belongs to this successor relation if Q can follow P in some execution sequence. So our ring will be a ring defined over this set of successor relation. So every element of our set is a pair of program statements. First, we'll talk about addition and multiplication. Later, we'll talk about the multiplicative inverse and the multiplicative identity. So let's start with a simple example. So the DBZ example that we looked at earlier. So recall that the DBZ example has 6 behaviors, out of which 2 behaviors lead to the vulnerability division by 0. So let's now see how to define a set of equations and then derive the compact representation for behaviors. So first we will illustrate the concept of successor elements. The successor element is a pair of program statements, and we are going to use B and E as the dummy statements for beginning and end. We will be using line numbers for program statements. So in this program we have B and E and the program statements 3, 4, 5, etc. Some of the numbers don't correspond to program statements. For example, 7, it's just a parenthesis. Now the program statements, when it executes, the next statement is this successor. For example, when this statement 3 executes, the next statement is going to be 4. So we have the pair 3, 4 in this successor relation. Here we have some successor elements. Here is a complete set of successor elements. Note that in some cases a program statement has two successors. This happens when it is a if statement. In this lecture we are going to consider if statement but not the switch statement. The switch statements is an easy generalization of if statement. So here we have three if statements, and the if statement 8, for example, has successor 9 and 15, and so we have two successor elements 8, 9 and the pair 8, 15. So I guess it should be now clear to you what are these successor elements. Now, given these successor elements, we are going to define a system of linear equations and then solve this system of linear equations to get a compact representation that we will call CRS, the representation with successor elements. So how do we set up the linear equations? So we have to consider three cases. Case 1, if A has a unique successor, there is only one successor element. For example, A has a successor B and we have this successor element E sub I. So then we set up the equation x sub A is equal to E sub I times x sub B. So we have a variable for every program statement. So the variable for program statement A is denoted by x sub A, and the variable for the program statement B is denoted by x sub B. Now if the program statement has two successors B and C, then we have two successor elements EI and EJ, and the successor element EI is the pair A comma B, EJ is the pair A comma C, and we set up the equation x sub A is equal to E sub I times x sub B plus E sub J times x sub C. Now if E is the successor of a program statement, which means we have come to the end of the program, then we set up the equations as I have shown here. Essentially, the end symbol is not retained in equations. So now we have the program. On the left, I've shown the variables that I've used to correspond to the program statements. We have these successor elements, and then we have these equations. So for each variable we set up an equation. We have 11 variables here, x1, x2 to x11, and we have 11 equations. Now we are going to solve the equations. A quick review of solving a system of linear equations. Remember the Gauss-Jordan method. So it has two parts. The first part is to transform the coefficient matrix to an upper triangular form. Here I have shown a system of equations, three equations in three unknowns. The coefficient matrix is a 3 by 3 matrix, and we can transform it to an upper triangular form. The upper triangular form means the elements below the diagonal are 0. So here we have the upper triangular form. The second step of solving the system of equations is we start from the end. So here we have minus 2x3 is equal to minus 6. We get x3 is equal to 3. We substitute it in the second last equation, and then we get x2. We keep doing this until we get the solution for the first variable. The second step is called the back substitution. The computational complexity of the first step is it requires n cube computations, which means if we have n variables, we are going to require n cube computations. The second step, the back substitution, is linear, especially if the matrix is sparse, then it is linear. So we'll see that in case of software, we are primarily going to require back substitution, and it will be linear. So here we have a system of equations for the DBZ program, and we start solving it backwards. So x11 is equal to e14. So we already have the solution for x11. We substitute it, so we get x10 is equal to e13 times x11, but x11 is e14, so we get x10 is equal to e13 times e14, and we continue doing this until we get x1 equal to this algebraic expression. So when we are solving these equations, forget that the successor elements are pairs of program statements. Just think of these successor elements as numbers. We don't know what they are, so we cannot simplify the algebraic expressions as 2 times 3 is equal to 6. So we are just going to maintain the algebraic expression, and so we get an algebraic expression as a solution for x1, and that is the CRS. So let's now discuss how we get the compact representation of execution behaviors. We map CRS to CRB. Recall that the CRS is derived from a set of linear equations, and the CRS is an algebraic expression using successor elements. Each successor element is a pair of program statements, and the execution behaviors are sequences of program statements. So we map each successor element to a program statement. The rule is as follows. If the successor element is the pair n1, n2, and n2 is not the end statement, then we map that successor element to the first program statement n1. If the successor element is n1e, then we map that successor element to n1, n2. That is, we now retain the end statement. We shall illustrate that process here for the DBZ example. We have already derived the CRS by solving a system of linear equations. It is an algebraic expression using the successor elements. We have 14 successor elements, E1, E2, E3 up to E14. Now I have also shown here the corresponding pairs for the successor elements so that it becomes easy to see the mapping. So for example, E1 is the pair B3, it gets mapped to B. E2 is the pair 3, 4, it gets mapped to 3, and so on. When there are two successor elements corresponding to the same program statement, for example, the E4, 5, 6 and E5, 5, 8. One of them corresponds to the value true. So 5t, if 5 is true, we get 6. That's why we are showing 5t6. And then we have the E5. E5 is simply 5, 8, and so we are showing 5F. Okay, and the 8, you will see that it is in the next parenthesis. Now here the CRB, let's multiply out the terms and get the behaviors. So we have in parenthesis 2 terms here and 3 terms here. So when we multiply it out, we are going to get the 6 terms. So here we are using the property that multiplication is distributive over addition. So when we do the multiplication, we get these 6 terms. Each of them corresponds to a behavior. So we have 6 behaviors represented by this CRB. So now we had the behaviors represented by the truth table. Recall that the truth table has some repetitions of behaviors. The CRB will not have the behaviors repeated. So we have the CRB. We have the 6 terms that we can get if we do the multiplication and simplify the algebraic expression. And we see here how the 6 behaviors correspond to the 6 behaviors we had represented in the truth table. Now let's consider what happens when programs have loops. The DBC program does not have a loop, and we saw how to get a compact representation for execution behaviors. Let's try to do the same for a program with a loop. Here I've shown the skeleton of a program with a loop. So imagine we have program statements A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. We start at A1. At A2 we enter a loop. The loop is A2, A3, A4, A5. The loop iterates 0 or more times, and then eventually we exit from A2 to the end of the program. So we can set up the equations as before. So we have these successor elements. A2 follows A1. So we have the successor element E1, then the successor element E2, E3, E4, etc. And so we have these equations as before, and then we can start solving the equations. So, but when we have a loop, we get something which is little weird. We get an equation where we have some coefficient alpha. Alpha is 1 minus E2, E3, E4, E5. So we have alpha x2 is equal to E6. And so we have to divide by alpha to get x2. So x2 is 1 over alpha times E6. And so we get the solution. Earlier I told you that forget that this E2, E3, E4, E5 are successor elements. Just treat them as numbers. So that's what I have done here. But now the problem is going to be, if we want to get the CRB, we have to map it to the program statements. So what program statements do we map this weird expression 1 over 1 minus e2, e3, e4, e5. We can map e2, e3, e4, e5, but if we have the program statements in the denominator, how do we define the division? So that creates an interesting problem, and we'll talk about it in the next segment.